My name is Nora Callahan. I'm 28 years old, and I will never forget the morning my family left me on the steps of a church in Portugal, and called it a gift. The trip was supposed to be our healing, after years of small cruelties disguised as jokes, after my mother's passive sighs and my sister's eye rolls that cut like glass. We were finally going to try. That's what they said. That's what I believed, because I always believed them. That was my flaw, a flaw they had carefully cultivated in me since childhood. It was a Tuesday. The air tasted of salt and bread. The Igreja do Carmo loomed blue and white behind me as I stood at a street vendor choosing postcards. Tiny, ridiculous postcards I was buying for them, because that's who I was. The girl who remembered everyone's favorites. The girl who brought gifts to the people who forgot her birthday. When I turned around, the cobblestones were empty. No Mom, no Renee, no Claire, no Dad. I ran. My sandals slapped wet stone. I checked the cafe, the corner, the little square with the fountain where we'd agreed to meet if separated. Nothing. I called my mother's phone 6 times. Voicemail. I texted Renee, "Where are you? I can't find you," and watched 3 dots appear, then vanish. Then finally, a reply. "Nora, you need to figure things out on your own for once. We love you, but we can't keep babying you. We'll see you home." I read it 3 times, 4, 5, standing in a country where I didn't speak the language, with 40 euros in my pocket and no passport. It was locked in the hotel's safe and I didn't have the code. The church bells rang the hour. I sat down on the church steps, and for the first time in years, I let myself cry. Not the quiet, polite crying I'd trained myself to do, the kind that doesn't make anyone uncomfortable. Real crying, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and old. Let me tell you who I was before that morning, so you understand what they took from me and what, eventually, I took back. I grew up in a 3-bedroom house in Burlington, Vermont. My father, Patrick, ran a hardware store. My mother, Diane, was a librarian. Ironic, I always thought, that she spent her days helping people find the stories they needed, while never once reading mine. My sisters, Renee, 32, the eldest, the golden one, effortlessly beautiful, effortlessly liked. She had a way of filling a room that made everyone else feel they were only renting space in it. And Claire, 25, the baby, funny and sharp and ferociously protected by everyone, including me. And then there was me, the middle, the mayonnaise in a sandwich nobody ordered. I was not difficult. I want to be clear about that. I was earnest and quiet, and I loved deeply, and I tried, constantly, relentlessly, to earn a belonging in my own family that I never quite achieved. When I was 10, I had strep throat on Renee's school play. The entire family went without me. They came back laughing, full of inside jokes. You should have seen her, Nora. You would have loved it. I would have, I thought. I tried to. When I was 15, I planned my own birthday dinner, made a list, left it on the kitchen counter. My mother found it and said gently, sweetly, "Honey, we're going to Renee's soccer finals that weekend. You understand." Renee's finals were on a Thursday. My birthday was a Saturday. They are not the same day. They have never been the same day. When I was 22, I graduated with honors at UVM, first in my department. I'd worked 2 jobs and a research assistantship. My father called that morning and said, "We might be a little late, traffic on 89. They arrived as the last names were being called, the W's. I am a Callahan. I walked across that stage to applause from strangers and professors who knew my name from papers they'd assigned to their classes. No one from my family saw it. "We're so proud of you," my mother said at dinner, her eyes warm and her hand on my arm. And the terrifying thing, the thing I've spent years in therapy understanding, is that she meant it. She was proud. She simply didn't prioritize showing up. For her, those two things coexisted without contradiction. For me, they tore a hole I kept trying to sew closed with new thread. This Italy trip, Portugal, sorry, I keep calling it Italy because that's the story I've told myself when it becomes too painful to locate precisely. This trip was my mother's idea. We need to reconnect, she said, in the way she said things that sounded like gifts but were really corrections. You need to reconnect, Nora. You are too distant. You don't try. I did what I always did. I believed her. I spent 3 weeks researching Porto, booked a walking tour of the Ribeira district, found a Fado restaurant for our last night, made a shared document, Callahan Portugal itinerary, with color-coded days and embedded Google Maps pins. Renee replied with a thumbs-up emoji. My mother added one comment. Don't overschedule, Nora. Let things breathe. Claire didn't open the document. And in the family group chat the week before departure, Renee, hope this trip doesn't turn into another Nora situation. Claire, LOL, she'll probably plan our bathroom breaks. Mom, girls, she means well. I told myself it was teasing. I told myself families tease. I packed their favorite snacks in my carry-on. I bought Claire a travel pillow because she mentioned once 18 months earlier that she'd wanted one. I was so good at loving people who had not yet learned to love me back. The morning of the abandonment, my mother handed me a list. There's a market near the waterfront, she said over breakfast at the hotel, a beautiful place called Casa do Conto, all white plaster and literary references. Go get a few things. We'll have a proper lunch in the room, family lunch, like we used to. Like we used to. 4 words designed to undo every reasonable doubt I had. I went. I bought the things. Fresh cheese, a jar of doce de ovos, 2 bottles of vinho verde, crusty bread still warm from the oven. I even bought a small bag of pastéis de nata, the little custard tarts, because I remembered my father saying years ago that he'd always wanted to try them fresh in Portugal. He had never been to Portugal before. Neither had I. This was supposed to be something we did together. When I returned to Casa do Conto, the woman at the front desk had the expression of someone delivering bad news to the wrong person. Your family, they check out this morning, very early. She paused. They leave this. A hotel envelope. My name in my mother's handwriting, her careful librarian's script. Inside, €60 and a folded note. Nora, we love you, but you need to learn to trust yourself. You'll find your way home. We know you will. You're stronger than you think. Mom, Dad, Renee, Claire. I stood in the lobby for a long time. The woman behind the desk didn't speak. She understood, I think, in the way that kind people understand things without needing them explained. Outside, Porto glittered indifferently in the morning sun. I won't romanticize what came next. It was terrifying. I had €60, no passport, no return flight details, and the number of no one in Portugal. The U.S. Consulate General was in Lisbon, 2 hours south. Emergency passport processing, 3 business days minimum. Cost? More than I had. I found a hostel near the Douro River, Pensão São Nicolau, run by a man named Tiago, who was in his 60s and had a white beard and the steady, unhurried manner of someone who had seen everything and judged nothing. He charged me €30 a night and didn't ask too many questions. You have family here? He asked. I had family. Now I have €60 and a bag of cheese. He laughed. Not cruelly, the way you laugh when something is both tragic and very true. I worked for my stay. I'm not too proud to say I needed help, and not too ashamed to say I worked for every bit of it. I cleaned rooms, helped in the kitchen. Tiago's wife, Fernanda, taught me to make caldo verde from scratch, her hands moving with the muscle memory of 10,000 identical pots. I translated menus for English-speaking guests. Tiago paid me in food and shelter, and, on day 3, a small cash advance toward the consulate fee. In the evenings, I sat on the hostel's rooftop terrace and watched the sun go down over the Douro. I wrote in the Notes app of my phone, not to document what happened, just to understand what I was feeling. One night I wrote, "I have been afraid of being alone my whole life. I wonder if that's because they made aloneness feel like punishment." Another night, "The people here, Tiago, Fernanda, the German backpacker named Lena who lent me my phone charger without being asked, they have given me more basic human dignity in 4 days than I received in the last 4 years at home." And one night, the night before my emergency passport was ready, I wrote, "I think I have been asking for permission to exist. I'm not going to do that anymore." I got home on a Thursday. I told no one. I spent 2 weeks sleeping, crying, eating cereal, and thinking. Then I spent another 2 weeks doing something else entirely. I documented everything. The group chat screenshots, the airline records. I found them in the shared family rewards account. They had booked return flights for 4 people from the start, not 5. 4. I had been on a separate booking the entire time, which meant the plan to leave me was in place before we ever left Vermont. The hotel records. I called Casa do Canto and spoke to the manager, who confirmed that the family suite had been changed to a double room 8 days before our arrival. My room had been a separate reservation from theirs, one they had quietly canceled the week of departure. Tiago wrote me a letter. His English was imperfect and his kindness was enormous. American woman arrive alone. No money, no document. She work hard. She is a good person. Her family leave her with nothing. This is not right. Lena, the German backpacker, sent a voice note. I remember when she got the phone call and her family laughed. I was on the terrace. I thought maybe I misunderstood because my English is not always perfect, but no, I heard. They laughed. I made a timeline. 21 years, 43 incidents. I had stopped counting at 43 because by then I understood I was not counting incidents. I was counting the shape of my childhood. I had always thought my family was imperfect but loving. I now understood what I had been living inside was something with a different name. 6 weeks after I returned, Renee called. "Nora, we haven't heard from you. Mom's worried." I kept my voice like still water. "I've been thinking. Don't overthink it. You always. I'd like to have dinner. All of us. I want to talk about the trip." Silence. Then, carefully, "Are you okay? Are you going to be dramatic about this?" "I'm going to be factual about it," I said. "I'll cook. Come to mine." They came on a Sunday. My apartment smelled of the caldo verde I'd learned to make in Porto, Fernanda's recipe, which I had written in my phone by memory and perfected over 6 attempts. I had set up my laptop at the dining table, printed materials in labeled folders, 1 per person, a projector borrowed from my colleague at work aimed at the blank wall behind my chair. They walked in expecting the Nora they'd always had, apologetic, soft-edged, already halfway toward forgiving them just to keep the peace. They sat down. I served the soup. I said, "Before we eat, I want to share something." My mother smiled. "Of course, sweetheart." I clicked the first slide. I won't give you everything that happened in that room. Some of it belongs only to that evening, to the specific silence that fell when the airline records appeared on the wall, to my father's face when he saw the hotel documents, to Claire going very still when Lena's voice played through my laptop speaker. What I will tell you is this. I did not raise my voice once. I did not cry. I presented 21 years of data, not as a grievance, but as a pattern, not as an attack, but as a truth that had gone unnamed for too long and was now being named, clearly, by the person it had been done to. When I finished, I closed the laptop. You have a choice, I said. You can acknowledge what happened, take responsibility, and we can try to build something real. Or you can leave, and we can stop pretending we're something we've never actually been. My mother was the first to speak. Norma. Her voice broke. I genuinely thought we were helping you. I know, I said, and I meant it. That was the most heartbreaking thing of all. Not that she had been cruel, but that she had been certain she was loving me. That's what we need to fix. My father stared at the table for a long time. Renee didn't look at me. Claire said, very quietly, I'm sorry. It was the most unexpected sentence of my life. Not everything was repaired that night. Some things aren't repairable in a single evening, no matter how carefully you've planned it. Renee and I are still finding our way. Some months we talk, some months the silence between us is large and awkward and honest in a way our old conversations never were. My father started going to therapy, voluntarily, quietly, which surprised me more than anything. My mother and I have Sunday calls now. They are not perfect, but they are real. She listens differently. I've learned to say what I need instead of performing contentment I don't feel. And I built a different table. Tiago and Fernanda came to visit last October, their first time in New England. Fernanda stood in my kitchen and watched the leaves turn and said in Portuguese, "It looks like the world is on fire." I didn't speak Portuguese. She didn't speak English. We understood each other completely. Lena sends postcards from everywhere she travels. Her last one said, I still tell people about the woman on the rooftop in Porto who was rebuilding herself in real time. You were so brave. You didn't even know it. I have a best friend now, Simone, who I met in a therapy group for adult survivors of family emotional neglect. She brings me soup when I'm sick without being asked. I have never in 28 years had a friend who brought me soup without being asked. I didn't know that was something that happened. Last November, I hosted Thanksgiving for the first time. Simone and her partner, Tiago and Fernanda on their second visit, my colleague David and his kids, who started calling me Auntie Nora sometime around their third visit and haven't stopped. My therapist had suggested I invite someone from my family. I thought about it and decided that the table I was building was already complete. I made Fernanda's caldo verde as a starter. For the main, I followed a recipe from an old cookbook of my grandmother's that I'd found in a box my father mailed me, unprompted, no note, just the cookbook, after our dinner conversation. I understood what it meant. Some apologies don't have words. They have cookbooks. After dinner, David's daughter, she's 7, her name is Poppy, climbed into my lap and asked me to tell her a story. What kind of story? I asked. A true one, she said, about something scary that turned into something good. I looked around my apartment, at Tiago Fernanda laughing at something Simone said, at Fernanda's laughing at something Simone said, at Tiago's white beard and his quiet, steady eyes, at the framed photo on my bookshelf, me standing at the waterfront in Porto on day 5, squinting into the sun, holding a custard tart, smiling in a way I don't remember deciding to smile. I know exactly the one, I told her, and for the first time, the story didn't start with abandonment. It started with a woman who discovered in the most brutal possible way that she was capable of saving herself, and that once you know that, once you truly, deeply know that, no one can ever make you forget it. Real family doesn't leave you to prove a point. Real family doesn't hand you a lesson wrapped in abandonment and call it love. Real family shows up, quietly, inconveniently, repeatedly. I know that now, because I built it.